We're going to move right along in section 1.1. We remember we're talking about real numbers. We learned how to define sets and classify numbers. We learned how to plot numbers on a real number line. Now we're going to use inequality symbols, and we're going to order numbers on the number line. So what does it mean to order a number? Ordering numbers basically is comparing two numbers, okay? You're trying to find out which of the numbers is greater. Don't try to toggle between what is greater and what is less. Pick one way to classify the numbers and then stick with that. So if you're trying to find out which number is greater, you're gonna just try to see which number is greater, and you're gonna use a couple of tricks. So one way that you can do it is the way that you've done in elementary school, right? That the alligator is gonna eat the bigger food, okay? So the alligator mouth is gonna open to the bigger number, right? So in this case, it would open this way, right? You would have an alligator mouth opening towards the 10, all right? Another way to remember it, which is the way that I kind of want you guys to start learning these, is by just reading them, okay? You should be able to read each one of these as if they were words, okay? What do I mean by that? Well, one trick that you can use is knowing that this symbol kind of looks like an L, and this is actually the symbol for less than. Okay, you should be able to read each one of these without any numbers associated with them, right? You should know that this is the greater than symbol. You should know that this is the less than symbol. This is the greater than or equal to symbol. And this is the less than or equal to symbol, okay? You should be able to put those on a sheet of paper and be able to read it out loud like if it were a word, okay? When you're ordering numbers, remember to use the number line, but use it in your head. You don't want to be writing number lines down every single time that you solve a problem, okay? If you use this little trick right here, remember that left on the number line means that it's less, and less has that L shape, which is kind of like the less than symbol. Okay, this less than symbol, left is less than, all right? This right here, remember you should read it as less than. Good, so if we were comparing these two, we would put that less than symbol right here, okay? Let's do some examples. That's basically it for the explanation part, but the examples are gonna be pretty important. So go ahead and follow along. Make sure that you're doing this in your notes as well, okay? So example here, pretty easy. 3 compared to 5. We know that we can either use the alligator, right? Or we can use this less than symbol, okay? If we have 3, we know that 3 is gonna be less than 5, okay? And that's pretty simple, okay? You can just try to figure out where that less than, if that less than fits in there, or you can try to see that the alligator mouth opens to the bigger one, okay? But you should just be able to read these out, right? You can't put this one here because that's the greater than symbol. Go ahead and work out examples 3B and 3C now from your books. Pause the video for about 20 seconds and work out examples 3B and 3C. Both examples are on page 5. Okay, you should have had time to work those out, and the answers are going to be in the book there for you. You can just go ahead and check those yourself. Let's move on to 4A. 4A is going to be 1/3 compared to 1/5. Now, when we have fractions, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, okay? Because we can't really visualize these so easily, okay? The best way to go ahead and solve fractions is to do one of these 3 things, okay? You're either going to simplify the fractions, you're going to reduce the fractions, or you're going to try to find the same denominator. In this case, they're already simplified and reduced as much as possible, so we're going to have to turn each one of these fractions to the same denominator. Now, this is a whole other thing in itself. Hopefully, you guys remember how to do this. It shouldn't be that difficult. Remember that you have to find the least common multiple, LCM, of the two numbers in the denominator, okay? So the least common denominator, okay? LCM, if we're doing it with fractions, just becomes LCD, which is the least common denominator. The least common denominator between 3 and 5 is going to be the number 15. You can write them out if you want. You would write 3 and you would write 5, and they're going to be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. In this case, it would be 5, 10, 15. 15 is going to be the least common multiple between those two numbers, which means that you're going to have to turn each one of those fractions into a fraction over 15. I'm going to go ahead and do that down here, okay? 1/3 is going to become a fraction over 15. And the easiest way to figure this out is if you just ask yourself, how does 3 become 15? Well, 3 becomes 15 by multiplying by 5. And if you have a fraction, whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So we're going to multiply the bottom by 5 to get 15. We're going to multiply the top by 5 to get 15. And that becomes 5 over 15. And that's going to be compared to whatever fraction is over 15 over here, right? But we didn't start with 15 over here. We started with 1/5. So same exact thing. How did we get from 1/5 to something over 15? Well, 5 becomes 15 when you multiply it by 3. And 1 becomes 15, and whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So when we go ahead and we do it like that, and we set it out, we can easily see that this is going to be 3 over 15. Now we know that if you have 5 out of 15 pizza slices, that's obviously going to be more than if you have 3 out of 15 pizza slices. The bottom number doesn't really matter now, right? Because that's just how many slices there are. So in this case, we're going to put the greater than symbol. 5 over 15 is greater than 3 over 15. 1/3 is greater than 1/5, okay? So simplify, reduce, or find the same denominator. Let's go ahead and let's do decimals now. Okay, when we're working with decimals, we're gonna go ahead and, in fact, before we do this, go ahead and work out 4b on your own. All right, 4b is on page 6. Work out 4b, which is -3 over 2 compared to -1 over 7. Go ahead and work that out. Give yourself 20 seconds. And we're gonna move on to 5b now. So, example 5b, which is also on page 6, it's ordering decimals. When we're ordering decimals, I want you to think about money, okay? Here we have 2 decimals. One of them is -1.09, the other one is -1.90. Which one is going to be less, or which number is greater? Let's write something underneath each one of these. Let's write the word million. -1.09 million or -1.90 million. Which one would you rather see in your bank account? I know you would rather not see either of those, but I would rather owe 1.09 million than owe 1.90 million, because if I'm owing -1.09 million, that means I'm owing $1,090,000. Whereas if I'm owing 1.90 million, it means that I'm owing $1,900,000. Okay. So in this case, which one is greater than, which one is less than? Even though this number looks greater, okay, this number is actually going to be less. Even though this number looks greater, yes, that's what I said. Okay. Even though this number looks greater, it's actually going to be less. Why? Because it's more negative. It's going to be more left on the number line. Okay. So if I have 0 right here, I'm going to have -1.90, and here I'm going to have -1.09. Okay. So this number is going to be less, which means that this number is greater. Okay. So I hope that doesn't confuse you too much. If you think about money, it does help a little bit, but the best thing to do would be to write it out on the number line. Go ahead and work out example 5C, and that's the end of this section. So after you finish 5C, do about 20 seconds to figure out 5C. Not even, it should take about 10 seconds, and then move on to the next video.